So I'm going to talk about billboards today. Um, Basically, billboards are unlike many of the things that you have to design that actually has a lot of importance, and they have to be designed in a particular way. So if you think about it, it's like billboards is a setup where if you see them alongside the road, you see them on buildings, but most of the time when you see billboards, you're driving right past it. So it's usually at a time when you need to kind of like just, it'll probably be within 3 to 5 seconds of being able to read that. So billboards are designing for time and attention in all reality. So you have to design for visibility. Can the message be easily read? Where will it be displayed? Consider the landscape and lighting. Use colors and images that will contrast with the surroundings. Use ample spacing between words and lines, and keep the message and design simple. So if we look at this, again, it's a very simple billboard. It has the barbells that are on what we call extensions above the board, and it grabs attention. Very simple board. Again, here, grabbing the attention, very minimal amount of things, and you see like the logos and stuff at the bottom. They're very small, which basically have to be legally put there, but it's not the main part of the message. It's like here is meet the largest touring T-Rex in the world, Victoria the T-Rex. So again, it's basically capturing the attention is what you need to do with that. So like I said before, billboards have a limited amount of viewing time. So you drive right past them. So again, they require your message to be communicated in a very short time period. And they have to have an effective message that can be communicated in 10 seconds or less, or actually I go more like 5 seconds or less in many instances. So they have to be very, very simple. So if I look at a board like this, is this something that you would probably be easily read and the message portrayed? No, more than likely not, because there's too much information there, and at the moment I'm saying this, you've already driven past it. So you weren't able to retain many of the messaging that was there. Or same thing here. There's a lot of stuff that's here, but it's when you drive past it, you just don't want to remember any of that stuff. Are not going to stop and write down things. You're not going to memorize things that are on this board. Okay. But in a board like this, where it has a limited amount of things, it has a picture to grab attention, and it's leading you towards the You Go Grill and the Chipotle logo. That's all it is. And that's conveying the message. That's a perfect billboard. So font sizes are another consideration. Can the message be easily read from a distance? Most billboard advertising, outdoor advertising, is viewed from the passing vehicles and should be in clear, large fonts that can be read from a distance of at least 1,000 feet. Leave spaces between letters to avoid a crowded appearance. So there's a trick in billboards. It's like when you have lettering and that's pretty large or whatever, you want to track out the wording, like the space in between letters. You want to make that a little bit greater. That will help readability from a distance. When you're designing a computer, I would more or less say get up, walk 2 or 3, like 10, 15 feet behind you, and look at your computer screen and be able to see is a message conveying like the way you want it to. Because I can tell you more than likely if you're on your computer screen, that's not a viable type of communication here. So I would say get up, walk away from your computer screen, and see if that's something that you can see relatively well. So in this here, it's a pretty simple board. It has 2 cows, grab attention, and eat more chicken. Okay? So it's just a simple board, grabs attention, easily read. Unlike this one, where it's like you have the contrast for it is not there. So it's not easily read. Mind you, the resolution is not that great either, But it's like at least you can kind of tell from this that the board does not have a very high contrast. Or even this, you just can't tell what part of it is the message. So it's a very bad type of design for a billboard. All right, billboards need short copy. Less is more. By using fewer words and keeping the message simple, the copy will be retained and more easily understood by the viewer. Okay, keeping short copy on a billboard is essential. Unlike this, but in all fairness, this billboard for Lyft actually is, well, it's telling you exactly what it is. So right now you're supposed to be going pretty fast, which is why most billboards only have like 3 or 4 words. But this one was 990. And the fact that you've read this many of them in the middle of the road is a pretty good indication that something's gone wrong. We're not going to sit here and pretend it'll be easy to fix, but we have a pretty good idea. And if you download the app, you'll have it too. So it's just that's what its intention was. Now, of course, if you're driving right past this, you're not going to be able to read all of that, and that's what that was intended for. So a board like this too, again, there's too many words. There's nothing to really focus on. You don't know what's going on here. All right, you can tell that there may be realtors, but again, you've already driven past that to retain any information whatsoever. Where this, again, you see the Pepsi logo and hashtag say it with Pepsi. Not much else there. And you captured the message and you've driven right past. So that's what you needed to do. All right. So you may see the McCafe Frappe and happiness tastes like this. Now select retailers. Okay. Again, very simple. Driving right past. All right. Retain that information. That's all it needed. Or in this, just the wording, I hate you give, find your voice, October 19th, in theaters. All right, so that's how we read it. You see the picture of the girl, you see the title, the hate you give, find your voice. That's what the important thing is here. All right, now you may notice if you read into it, it's like basically you see THUG is like thug. But again, it's a movie, I believe, but it's like, again, it's very simple message there. All right, contrasting colors. Does the billboard stand out from the surroundings? Does the copy stand out from the background? Are you using contrasting colors on all the elements? Using appealing colors and contrasting elements can make your message stand out. So if you see a board like this, would you take the time to understand what's going on? You wouldn't, because it's basically, it kind of like hurts your eyes just to even look at it from here. But it's like, it does not have a high contrast. It's not going to get the message across. Where you see something like this, very high contrast, and against like black lettering against white background is always the highest contrast you can get. And the logo. Billboards have to be intriguing. Does a message or image draw attention? Will a glance at the advertisement demand further investigation? Use provoking words and imagery to draw the reader's attention to your advertisement. So like here, it's like if you pass by this, you might, oh, well, that's interesting. And you might see that as like, okay, it would basically, you drove past it, you would look at it again. Or this. It's like it's using the environment to kind of like suck you in, literally, for black holes. Now, this one's actually a very interesting board because what it does is there are pictures for it, but I wasn't able to bring them up. But what it does is that during the day, it's just not. It doesn't. You don't see anything. But as it goes to night, that light that's on the left side of the board shines onto all these little pegs that kind of like come out from the board. And all the combination of those actually make that shadow of Dracula there. So it's a very interesting board. It's a very unique board, but it uses the environment to create it. All right, every billboard needs to have a single message focus. Pinpoint your message and focus the advertisement on getting it to the reader. Do not try to force multiple messages on one billboard, as they may create confusion. Okay, so again, look at all of this stuff. All right, lot of things going on here, math, reading, all this percentage and stuff like that. It's way too much information that's needed, that's on this. So you have to pare back all the messaging in here. Where something like this, don't have a cow, Chick-fil-A. Simple, simple board, not a whole lot of messaging. All right. Billboards need to be more or less attractive ads. Using imagery along with the copy will help to attract readers' eye to the billboard. The use of images also helps to retain the message in the reader's memory by creating an association between the image and the message. Using extensions to create unusual designs and shapes will make your billboard stand out from others around it. It will help to retain the message in the reader's memory. So like this, again, it's like that it tracks your attention there. All right. And you'll see Tylenol, get back to normal. You might see this and might be kind of like interesting to kind of like look at, and maybe a form may be intrigued by it. Or if you see a passerbyers walk by this and they end up underneath this light bulb, might be kind of interesting to kind of see that too. All right, billboards need to have a simple layout. Keep the layout simple. If the layout is cluttered, the message may be confusing or simply ignored. All right, images can be very confusing, so do not use anything that's really abstract. All right, keep things simple. Like this one, it's like, the McDonald's logo. And then this one is actually making a clock out of this as far as what time it is. It's 2:04. We're open. All right, another one that kind of keeps things a little bit simple. Look at me, we can stop it. So it had a camera that basically portrayed or took up these different people in this particular setting here. All right, now a call to action. Sometimes you need to, like, billboards primarily a lot of times are branding elements. But every once in a while you need some way of getting the customer to see the board and then form an action to get there. All right, so is the call to action clearly found in the board? Do the readers have all the necessary information to make them want to respond to the board in a memorable way? So in this case here, again, too much information here, but what I want to point out with is that there's a phone number and a website. Okay, here, if you have 3 seconds to drive past this board, would you remember 877-795-0065? More than likely, no. You might remember shapefinancialsolutions.com. Sure, maybe that might be better, or if the website address was better than that, you could be easily more easily remembered if it were shorter. But again, this is something that you have to consider when you deal with any kind of contact information. Now, if it were to be like 1-800 bad cred or something like that, that'd be easier to read. That would be easier to remember if you can associate it to the phone number, the number or the letters on each of the numbers to actually spell out something like that. That would be better. All right, again, something like this, too much information, or it's actually not a whole lot of information, but the contact number is this. This may be easier to remember, but again, it's like still having to remember a phone number like that with digits is harder. All right. Now this is not a bad board, but you got the web address, which is much easier to remember versus this number. So typically phone numbers, if they're like that, I probably wouldn't even consider putting those on there because, again, you have seconds for somebody to do that, and they are not going to stop to write down a number for that. They may remember a web address, but they're not going to remember a phone number. All right, and surroundings. All right, take an account of where the board is. Finding out from your billboard company if there's going to be a board that's going to be next to yours, because sometimes these things don't work out as well. So pay attention to your surroundings and use or don't use the environment. So like this one. Okay, so it's not, this board had just two boards here right next to each other, and this just didn't work out well when you placed the Huggies ad right there next to the Hitman billboard. So not a very good placement for that. Now, of course, here is another one where you're using the environment, using the frame that it's actually on to create this, which is far more interesting and thought-provoking. So you're using the space around it. Or another one that's bad. Two boards right next to each other. Not a good idea. Okay. Or this. Another one that might be kind of cool to see is like a mannequin or something like there. And then this board is possibly cut to these shapes to look like paint streaks, but then behind it is kind of like showing the sky. Or in the case of this board, it's actually kind of cool because it shows different things throughout the day. So it's placed in such a way where during sunset or sunrise or whatever, it will show this type of silhouette. And as it gets down to darkness or basically moonlight, you can kind of see that it'll take on a new role. So using the environment behind it, it's actually kind of cool to create that. So, all right, so I'm going to stop right there. But knowing that billboards are one of these things, you have to understand the message needs to be clear, needs to be simple, and because you only have a few seconds to actually grab somebody's attention. All right, so I'm going to stop right there, and I'll see you in the next video.